Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Robyn Dykstra. Where are you from? Michigan. See how smart I am? I travel all over the United States, and people will say, oh, where are you from? And I'll say Grand Rapids, and they don't know where that is. So I say Michigan. And sometimes I work in Michigan. So I would do a retreat at Camp Mishwana, and ladies would come up and say, oh, where are you from? And I'd say Michigan, and they'd go, yes. Got to adjust for the time. I'm delighted to be here. And you are the busiest women at camp, apparently, because you came to find out how to balance it all without losing your mind, which is your everything, right? Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I'm so glad you're here. So tell me what your name is, because you're not wearing a lanyard thing. Oh, neither am I.
I am.
Oh, okay.
Where are you? I'm Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay. From where do you come?
Lake Allen Camp.
Oh, my gosh. So's Judy. Okay. And Mishawanda. And where else are we from? Gull Lake. I don't know you. You were the first one in this morning.
Bayshore Camp.
Bayshore Camp. Nice to meet you, Liz. Where else are you from?
Crane Hill Ranch.
Crane Hill Ranch. I like it. Where is that?
Right there.
Don't you love living in Michigan so you can just tell people, here's my big diamond and here's where I live? Where are you from?
Little Eden, Onekama. My name is Lynn.
Lynn. Okay. Are you together? Are you a set?
Separate.
Oh, just cuddling up. Okay. All right. Good. What's your name?
Kenzie.
Kenzie. Very nice. Back row. Oh, you know you sat back there so that I wouldn't come back here, didn't you? Where are you two from?
Lake Ann, yeah.
Lake Ann. Nice. What do you do there?
We're both interns.
Learning the deal. Well, it's good that you got here today so that you can learn how to balance everything. I don't know what your day looks like, but mine looks a little like this. I get up in the morning, I quick go exercise, and then I do my quiet time while my sweat evaporates, and then I defrost something for dinner, and then I get ready. I make my head work. I put my makeup on, and I do my hair, and then I run off to work, and then I work, and then I go to lunch or work through lunch, or lunch is running the errands that I didn't get through, and then I go back to work, and I work, and then I get off of work, and I get home. And I make dinner, and then we eat dinner, and then I clean up dinner. And then you'd think, but it's not over yet, is it? No, because there's Bible studies to do and Bible studies to attend and meetings to make and magazines to read and television to watch and Facebook to catch up on, right? And then we finally say, I'm going to go to bed, but then before we go to bed, what do? Exactly, we have to start a little laundry, and we have to make sure that the thermostat is set, and we're going to put away those dishes so that we just don't have to face it in the morning. And then we finally go to bed, only to get up and do it all over again. That is stressful. Isn't that stressful? How did we get here? How did we get into that situation? I don't know about you, but for me, it feels a little bit like a gerbil wheel. I've heard that expression. Have you heard that expression? It feels like I'm on a gerbil wheel. I don't actually own rodents, but from what I understand, they just get on this wheel and they go and go and go and go. But to be perfectly honest, my life doesn't feel as much like a gerbil wheel as it does like a NASCAR oval. It feels like I'm going way faster than a gerbil could pedal. I am under it. And it's not healthy for us. The American Academy of Family Physicians says that stress is killing us, that we are shortening our lives because we have become such a stress-filled society. Now, stress is defined as a force exerted when one body or body part presses on, pulls on, pushes against, or tends to compress or twist another body or body part. I don't know about you, but I often feel pressed on, pulled on, or pulled against. Anybody else? Yeah. Time magazine did an article on the pace of our lives, and it says that we are addicted to our own adrenaline. We have become so used to running at this breakneck pace that we kind of enjoy the push that we get. Our body, God gave us this adrenaline to get out of life-threatening situations so that we'd have the strength for the moment or the capacity to run even if we don't like Jillian Michaels. And we have become so addicted to this adrenaline rush that we run at that capacity all the time. And it's just not healthy for us. I have this friend, and he runs a huge corporation, and he uses this phrase: we have come to the point where we have to make a decision. We have come to the point where we have to make a decision. And that's where we are. We have come to the point where we have to make some decisions. 71% of us work outside the home. 71% of us work outside the home. 46% of couples both work full-time. First time ever that number is so high. And what in the world do we do with our stress? Well, I guess we have to figure out what's causing it, right? The first thing we have to figure out is what's causing it. Because honestly, I have a dinner plate and it's got this really pretty edge, and if my life were the dinner plate, I can't see that pattern on my dinner plate half the time because I've got it so full. But I did it to myself. I keep saying, oh, sure, I can do that. Oh, sure, I can do that. And we have to come to the point where we have to make some decisions. The first thing that I think of when I think of stress is that it's caused by accumulation. We accumulate stuff, but the more stuff you have, the more stuff you have to manage, don't you? I mean, you think, I'm just going to get this cute little Keurig because it's going to save so much time. But you have to keep it clean, and you have to keep it from poisoning you because, that's standing water. So you get these attachments and these things that you think are going to make your life easier, but then you just end up managing them. So the accumulation of our stuff can cause stress. I've got a girlfriend, and she accumulates some stuff. She does. And I have been the recipient, the happy recipient of many things because she is a collector of all things cute. And I was at her house one time and I said, I need a jacket. It was getting cold, and she said, oh, I've got one that you can borrow. Come on down in the basement. And we went down in the basement, and it looked like I was in the storeroom of a department store. Racks and racks of clothes. And she had the same blouse in 17 colors. And she had towers of shoe trees, double stuffed. It was full. It was taking over her whole home. Her whole basement in a beautifully finished home was not even usable for living space because it was so full of stuff. And while the enjoyment, the immediate gratification of collecting the things or clicking the yes button or making the purchase is nice, but it's causing so much stress in her home. It's causing stress on her home, and it's causing stress on her marriage because her husband doesn't want his basement full of all that stuff. So one thing we have to think about is, where are we accumulating things? Where are we accumulating things, and what are we doing to manage the accumulation? And maybe that's pots and pans and kitchen stuff. Maybe it's appliances. Maybe it's clothes or shoes. But maybe it's thoughts in your brain. Maybe you're just accumulating stuff that you're supposed to keep track of, and you need a better system to either, I have the 3 Ds, either do it, delete it, or delegate it. Because we accumulate this stuff and it just holds us hostage. You lay in your bed at night and you go, brain, shut off, brain, shut off, brain, right? Does anybody do that? Because your brain is so worrying. So what is the system that you can put into place so that you can release some of the accumulation of either stuff or thoughts? I have a little note that I need Accumulators Anonymous. Because sometimes you just need to be accountable, don't you? When I have a girlfriend, I've got a lot of girlfriends. And that's great because they make great object lessons. I'm usually my own object lesson, but every once in a while I don't have to be, which is nice for me. But I've got this girlfriend and she accumulates stuff, but she's a sneaky accumulator. What she does is she buys something that she wants, and then she sneaks it into her house after a little while. She'll cure it. That's what I call it. She cures it in the car or the basement or the garage. And then when she brings it out, her husband says, "Oh, is that new?" And she goes, "Oh, no, I've had this for a while." She's not actually lying, but this also is causing stress for her. It's not even that her husband would care that she had this new thing. But she's got it in her mind that accumulation or bringing this in is bad. So there's some kind of a check in her spirit that God is trying to give her that she's not listening to. Another way to evaluate whether or not there's too much stress or too much activity in your life is whether or not you are seeking approval. There are 3 kinds of approval seekers. The first one is that pleaser person. And girls, if you're a pleaser person, I won't make you raise your hand for any of this, but if you're a pleaser person, you say yes to things that you shouldn't say yes to. You say yes to things because you're so honored that someone would trust you with this responsibility that you say, "Yes, I'd love to do that." When you have no training for it and no talent for it, but you're available. You know what they say, if you want something done, go to the busiest person you know. And if you're the busiest person that somebody knows, they might very likely ask you to do something that you have no business doing. I am not an event planner. I do this all day long, but somebody asked me to run a mother-daughter banquet at my church. And I was so honored that they would ask me that I forgot I stink at that. I have no decorating skills at all. If I move this cup to this chair, I've redecorated the room. I am not a decorator. And I was so miserable, thank you. I was so miserable doing that banquet. It was a huge undertaking, 800 people, 2 different nights, dinners and cloth napkins, and oh, yeah. And I learned the hard way that I have to practice saying, "Thank you for thinking of me, but I can't do that. Thank you for thinking of me, but I can't do that. Thank you for thinking of me, but I just can't do that. Thank you for thinking of me, but I just can't do that." You have to practice it. Honestly, you have to stand in front of a mirror. Thank you for thinking of me, but I can't do that. Because otherwise we get trapped into doing things that we're not good at or that we don't enjoy just because we want somebody to say, "Gosh, you did a good job." Another kind of approval-seeking person is the perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist. Amen. Thank you. And we get stressed out when things are not just so. We are constantly seeking approval from someone to say that we've done something well. I baked 164 cherry pies one fall. I know. Because I was determined to get it right, and I couldn't. And my husband, to this day, will not eat cherry pie because enough already. And it can manifest in any number of ways. You get really stressed out if you don't have enough time to finish a project. But the truth of it is, for perfectionists, there's never enough time. Because you can always improve it. It can always get better. If you give me one more shot at that, I'm sure I can do a better job. So if your perfectionist tendencies lean towards that, like mine do, you just have to say, I can do as much as I can do, and then I'm just going to pull the plug on it. Tiger Woods, now I'm not a golfer, but everybody practically knows who Tiger Woods is, and he's a golfer who does things really, really well. And the problem that I have as a perfectionist is that I labor over my imperfections. Until I heard Tiger Woods, and he has a 5-step policy. If he makes a lousy shot, he says, by the time I have taken my 5th step, I'm done with it. I don't think about it anymore. I don't talk about it anymore. I don't look at it anymore. I might practice something else, but I don't let it affect the rest of my game. And that's what we do, isn't it? For perfectionists, we make a flaw or a big mistake, or we let somebody down, or we haven't done things just as well as we can, and then all we can think about is, oh my goodness, not only what are they going to think about me, but oh, how could I have done that better? And the guilt and the stress from trying to be a perfectionist, we have to just let it go. And one of the big reasons is because perfectionists breed perfectionists. Take it easy on your children and just stop the cycle. So there's the pleaser, there's the perfectionist, and then there is the affirmation junkie, which is sort of the umbrella that goes over all of them. They just constantly need affirmation, and the deal is that God says you're enough just where you are. You know, for all of our stress and whatever causes it, saying yes to the right things and the wrong things, taking on too much, doing it just right, the things that cause stress in our lives, the things that we take on in our lives, we do mostly because we want to be accepted. We want to please someone else. We want to help someone else. But the bottom line is your theme for this weekend, and that is that faith is enough. Faith is enough. God loves you just the way you are. I know, I look in the mirror and I go, for real? Really? Or my 164 pi debacle. Really? You love that girl? Yeah, he does. He does. There's this story in Reader's Digest, and I just want to share it with you because I just feel like there might be a woman in this room who needs to hear it today about how you are accepted and just enough. And it was written by a guy who visited some tropical islands, and it's called The Story of Johnny Lingo. And here's his story. Johnny is the brightest, the strongest man in the islands. For his age, the richest. He knew how to find what tourists want and how to broker deals. The people of Kinawata all spoke highly of Johnny Lingo, and yet when they spoke, they smiled, and the smiles were slightly mocking. "What's up?" the reporter asks. "Everybody tells me to get in touch with Johnny Lingo for fishing or pearls, and then cracks up. What's the joke?" 5 months ago, Johnny came to Kinawata, and he found himself a wife. He paid her father 8 cows. Now, I knew enough about the customs of the island to be impressed. 2 or 3 cows would buy a fair to middling wife. 4 or 5 cows, a highly satisfactory one. "Good Lord," I said, 8 cows? She must have beauty that takes your breath away. Only the kindest could call Sarita plain. She was skinny. She walked with her shoulders hunched and her head ducked. She was scared of her own shadow. Her father was afraid she'd be left on his hands. But then he got 8 cows for her? Isn't that extraordinary? Never been paid before. But what's up? No one knows and everyone wonders. All the cousins were urging her father to ask for 3 cows and hold out for 2 until he was sure Johnny would pay at least 1. Then Johnny comes and says, "Father of Sarita, I offer 8 cows for your wife." 8 cows, he says. I gotta meet this Johnny Lingo. So the next afternoon, he beached his boat at a nearby Nurabandi. He says, I noticed as I asked directions to Johnny's house that his name brought no sly smile to the lips of his fellow Nurbandians. I was glad that from his own people he had respect unmingled with the mockery. We sat at his house and talked, and then he asked, You come here from Kinawata? Yes. They speak of me on that island? They say there's nothing I could want that you couldn't help me get. Johnny smiled. My wife is from Kinawata. Yes, I know. They speak of my wife? A little. What do they say about my wife? Why, the question caught me off balance. They told me you were married 5 months ago. Nothing more? The curve of his eyebrow told me there had to be more to the story. They say that the marriage settlement was 8 cows. They wonder why. They ask that? They ask, everyone in Kinawata knows about the 8 cows? I nodded. And in Nurobandi, everyone does too. His chest expanded with satisfaction. Always and forever, when they speak of marriage settlements, it will be remembered that Johnny Lingo paid 8 cows for his wife. So that's it. Vanity, the reporter thinks. And then I saw her. I watched her enter the room to place the flowers on the table. She stood still a moment to smile at the young man beside me. Then she went swiftly out again. She was by far the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. The lift of her shoulders, the tilt of her chin, the sparkle in her eyes spelled a pride to which no one could deny her the right. I turned back to Johnny Lingo and found him looking at me. You admire her, he said. She's glorious, but she's not Sarita from Kinawata, I said. There is only one Sarita. Perhaps she does not look the way she looked in Kinawata. She doesn't. I heard she was homely. They all made fun of you because you let yourself be cheated by her dad. You think 8 cows was too many? No, but how could she be so different? Do you ever think, said Johnny, what it must mean to a woman to know that her husband has settled for the lowest price for which she can be bought? And then later, when the women talk, they boast about what their husbands paid. One says 4 cows, one says 6. How does she feel, the woman who was sold for 1 or 2 cows? This could not happen to my Sarita. Then you did this just to make your wife happy? I wanted Sarita to be happy, yes, but I wanted more than that. I wanted an 8-cow wife. You say she is different. This is true. Many things can change a woman. Things that happen on the inside, things that happen on the outside. But the thing that matters most is what she thinks of herself. In Kinawata, Sarita believed she was worth nothing. Now she knows she is worth more than any woman in our islands. Then I wanted to marry Sarita. I loved her. To me, Sarita has always been an 8-cow wife. I just wanted her to know it. See, Johnny Lingo didn't care what other people thought of him. He wasn't going after what other people would say about his wife. He wanted to make sure his wife knew her value. When we know our value, we don't have to seek approval or perfection. We can just stand in the truth of knowing that God sees us as an 8-cow wife. It's an extraordinary story, isn't it? Turn to somebody next to you and say, you are worth more than an 8-cow wife. See, you can't afford to have a single thought in your head that doesn't believe that you're an 8-cow woman. You just can't. I know, it's crazy. But you can't afford to entertain any thoughts less than I am an 8-cow woman, because if you do, then you say yes to things that you're not supposed to say yes to. And you seek approval from things that aren't going to satisfy you. And you want things that can never be given to you. Turn to the woman next to you and say, I am an 8-cow woman. It's hard, I know. Did you see what happened? What happened is it was easy for you to say, you are an 8-cow woman. But when you have to say, I am an 8-cow woman, there's a shift in us. And there's something that says, can I say that? Do I believe it? It's important. You may have to stand in front of the mirror and practice that too. When we get stressed, it's often because we take something on that is urgent but not important. I don't know, in camp that hardly ever happens, right? Nothing breaks or falls apart, or no emergencies that would take over what you really are supposed to be doing at the time. Do you know that Charles Hummel wrote that little article, The Important versus the Urgent, in 1967? For 40 years, we have been trying to put God, the most important thing, in our foremost, in our schedules, and battling to keep the urgent things out of the way. I can't believe that it's been that long, and I think it's harder today than it was in 1967. Of course, I wasn't born in 1967. But we just often let the things that are right in front of us take the place of the things that are supposed to give us the millennial view. And how does that happen? I worked with a client. I do coaching for women on a number of things: life coaching, public speaking coaching, marital coaching. Part of my story is that I've been married 4 times, and that makes me an expert because I can be married to anyone. I was widowed twice, and Dave is holding up nicely. We've been married 14 years, so I do a lot of coaching. But this woman had such a grand breakthrough that her husband bought me a gift card to the Melting Pot, which is a fondue restaurant. Anybody ever gone or heard about it? Fondue is where at the restaurant, you go in and it's all ambient, and there are little booths, and they tuck you into these little booths, and it's like you're alone in the building, and it's elegant, it's ambiently lit, and it smells good in there. And they bring you pots that sit on the table full of cheese or chocolate or oil, and you cook your own food. Now, ordinarily I would say I don't go to a restaurant to cook my own food, but this was an experience that we were going for. All right, so Dave and I get in and we sit down and we're like, oh, this is nice. And first thing that comes was the appetizer. They bring this pot of cheese, and it's melted, and I'm from Wisconsin, and I am a cheese head, body, and soul. And they bring us these little pieces of bread, and we take our long forks and we dunk the bread in the cheese, and we numb it down, and it's delicious, and there's a lot of it, but we just keep poking it in because it's so good. It's just so good. And then they clear all that away, and then they bring then they bring this salad that has more flavor in it, that really it should be illegal to put that much flavor in lettuce. It was just, I don't know, it might have had drugs in it because it was just so good. And we just gobbled that up, And then there was a little break in the action, and then they brought the pot of sizzling oil and this tray of meat and seafood, and they're just such tiny little pieces. And you know, I could feel that I was getting kind of full, so I unsnapped the top button of my pants, and I just kept eating my little food, a little piece of meat and a little bit of seafood and a little bit of meat, and I was getting so full, but I just, you know, what do? You can't take raw meat home. I mean, it's not like you can get a doggy bag for fondue pieces, and there's just 7 or 8 left. I mean, let's just do it. So we just kept poking the food in, and my pants were getting really uncomfortable by then, and I thought maybe I should slip into the ladies' room and get rid of my underwear and just get that, get that fraction of a piece left, right? And then, just when we thought they were done, they brought dessert. And it was this pot of chocolate, and it had marshmallows and fruit and little brownies. And I looked at Dave and I said, what should we do? I'm so full, I can hardly stand it. And he goes, we're gonna eat it. And we did, just one little bite at a time. We just kept poking it in until we were so full. We were uncomfortable. Isn't that what you do with your schedule? Just one good thing after another good thing after another good thing until it's so full, it's uncomfortable. And even the things that you enjoy have lost their pleasure because you just can't do anymore and you don't have any time for yourself. So here's my steps for regaining my balance. The first thing is I'm going to recognize that I cannot do it all. I just cannot do it all. Sometimes I have to renegotiate the terms of an agreement. I just do. I had been a stay-at-home wife for a long time. I worked part-time outside the home, but just in the last year, I have been in full-time ministry. Quit my day job, that's it. Going in. And last weekend, I saw Dave pulling the bath rug and the trash can out of his bathroom. Naturally, I went to inspect this. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm going to clean this bathroom. Now, immediately, I thought, why are you cleaning the bathroom? That's my job. Don't I do a good job? What's the matter with me? Do I no longer have value? If you clean your own bathroom, will you still stay married to me? I mean, all this stuff came up. And then he said, I thought I'd help you by cleaning my bathroom. Okay, now just listen to that. I thought I'd help you by cleaning my bathroom. Somehow I had gotten it twisted in my mind that I was the only one who should clean the bathrooms at my house. And I had so indoctrinated the people that I lived with that they thought that I should be the only one who cleaned the bathrooms. Just by his language, I'm going to help you, I'm going to do the job that you normally do. I'm going to take the responsibility that usually is yours. I'm going to help you by cleaning my bathroom. And if he hadn't done that, I wouldn't have thought, gosh, maybe there are other things that I need to renegotiate. Not just in my house, but the things I say yes to outside my house. So I just use that as an example. What needs to be recognized as something that you shouldn't do anymore? Maybe it's a new season of life or a new job. Standard roles no longer apply to us. We are busy. And while we are working outside the home, still statistically women do twice as much housework and childcare as men. Why is that? Because we asked them to. We assigned it to ourselves. We implied or arranged for us to be responsible. I doubt that any of us is married to anyone who would say, when asked, "I'm not taking out the trash. That's your job. I'm not doing that." Maybe it's time to renegotiate because you just cannot do it all. Do it, delete it, or delegate it. And that happens in my work too, that there are a lot of jobs that I can do that I outsource. I hire a girl from high school to do data entry for me when I get home from events because I would love to type all those names in and send them a nice little note, but the truth is, that's just not good use of my time. We hire a guy to mow the lawn now because, not that I ever did that, don't get me wrong, but we are gone so much that we've had to hire someone to take care of that. So just start thinking outside the box, like if this was a new season or a new job or a new thing for you, are there things that you could delegate? And don't forget to enlist the slave labor that lives in your home. If you have children, do not train them to be princes and princesses except in God's kingdom. In the economy of household, they are supposed to contribute wholeheartedly, early, and effectively and prodigiously, a lot. They're supposed to do a lot. Judy, you got like 700 kids, don't you? And they work, right? Absolutely. Yeah. They should do their own laundry. They should be setting the table. They should learn how to cook food. Don't take on the responsibility of things that can be delegated. So first, recognize you can't do it all. Second, do some recreation. I don't mean buy a boat, go home and schedule a week-long trip to Colorado to go skiing, but carve out time for you. Read a book. Go for a walk. Join a bowling league. Call your mama. Write a letter to your grandma. Hang a picture. Paint a picture. Do something that re-energizes you. Recognize you can't do it all, so find some time to recreate. And then, and it can be simple. It can be really easy. Like for me, I would just always gravitate to Netflix. I just am a binge-watching Netflixer. But that's not good for me, right? So a little bit of that goes a long way. So I read. I do a lot of reading. And I do a lot of baking. It's just why my pants keep getting so tight. But I do a lot of baking. So recognize that you can't do it all and do some recreation. Third, reboot. You know how when your computer just starts doing that seize up thing? Maybe it's time for you to reboot. Just look at what your day looks like, what your activities look like. What is the mirror telling you? What is the scale telling you? What is your attitude telling you? And just catalog, what am I doing and do I need those things? Rebooting for me at the beginning of the year meant starting to exercise. I had broken up with Jillian Michaels quite a while ago because I just didn't like her. She yelled at me from the TV. She did. She told me I could do jumping jacks, and I told her I couldn't, and she said, 400-pound people do jumping jacks. You can do jumping jacks. So I did it, but for me, rebooting meant restructuring my time, and it also meant doing something for my body, because when I had kids, I never exercised, ever. And then I finally got to the point where I was done buying bigger pants. I just had to do something. So I reconciled my differences with Jillian, and now we're exercising. But eat something healthy. Don't think that when you're 22 and your mom says, "Did you eat something green today?" and you go, "Yes," and you meant green jelly beans and M&Ms, that no longer counts over 30. you really have to eat something healthy. Get enough rest. Do you know none of us, I would venture to say, none of us get the rest that we're supposed to, the sleep that we're supposed to. And that's how your body rejuvenates you and fights off germs. Do you know that you can get fat if you don't sleep well enough? No lie. Your body doesn't do that chemical thing it does when you don't get enough rest, and it starts storing things because it thinks you're in a mode of survival. I tell you, that's good enough. That is good enough excuse for me to get my 8 hours right there. Soak in a tub, do some walking, clean out a drawer. Just do something that will help you reboot and get some rest. And then refocus. Because what we focus on tends to grow. I drive motorcycles, and when I say I ride motorcycles, I don't mean I get on the back of Dave's motorcycle. It means I have my own motorcycle. I can drive my own motorcycle. And I learned pretty quickly that where you look, you go. On a motorcycle, where you look, you go. You can navigate nicely through the curves and around the obstacles, or just as easily, ditch. What you focus on tends to grow. So where are you focusing? And do you have a good focus for what's important? Like if faith is everything, have you carved out some time to seek Jesus? Have you carved out some time to be quiet? I started this new discipline about 6 months ago, and I sit quietly I tried to start 5, I couldn't do it. I started with 2. And that means I don't pray, I don't think, I don't talk, I just sit quietly. It was horrible hard. Sit quietly for 5 minutes until it stretches and you can go 7, 8, maybe 10. And I'm telling you, the things that God speaks to me in those quiet moments are just glorious. If I will just be quiet long enough for Him to whisper in my ear, I get revelation, I get affirmation, I get reinforcement. It is just a glorious thing. And you say, I don't have 5 minutes. Well, girl, if you don't have 5 minutes in your day to spend with Jesus, something really needs to be reorganizing. Call me. We'll do your schedule. Stick your nose in the big book once in a while. I'm reading through the Bible, not in a year. I'm not an overachiever. I did it once. I said I read through the Bible in 80 days. Liz, I thought I was going to die. The only thing I got out of it was bragging rights. Because really, all that stuck was something that I had already studied before. I was just, gotta get through it. Do you know how many hours it takes to read through the Bible in 80 days? A lot. It's like a job. So now I read a chapter a day. Just a chapter a day. It takes about 3 years for me to get through the Bible. But I can do a chapter a day. So between my 5 minutes to 10 minutes of quiet and my chapter a day, my prayer life, I'm seeing things happen that are astonishing. It's like I understand what God's doing so that I can partner with what He's doing instead of, I want this, making Him try to do what I want to do. So just refocusing where the source of our power comes from is so important. So recognize you can't do it all. Do it, delete it, or delegate it. Do some recreation for yourself. Do something that you enjoy doing. Reboot. Take a look at your schedule and see what you can kick to the curb, what you would like to keep, and what needs to be renegotiated. Get yourself some rest, whether that's sleeping or just quiet time. And then refocus so that you are plugged in to the source who can alleviate the stress and encourage you and affirm you so that you don't have to get it by saying yes to things that you shouldn't do.